Hi, my name is Jerry Massey, and if you've been following my page or my personal timeline, you know that a few weeks ago I recorded a video to let my friends know that a mass has been found on my liver, and I wanted to record my progress on this. If you know me, you know that for 13 years I documented clergy sex abuse of children. And have PTSD as a result of it, and was warned by my Chinese medical doctor, traditional Chinese medical doctor, that I was going to experience problems with my liver moving forward, although he's certainly done a lot to rein in the problems I was having with PTSD. So it's happened. I have a mass on my liver, and this was discovered by ultrasound. And again, one thing documenting clergy sex abuse of children in Christian fundamentalist churches taught me is how fake a lot of what passes for Christianity in America, what I would call the American counterfeit of Christianity, how fake it is. And so I wanted to actually document this to not be fake. So I am scared. I'm definitely afraid. Sometimes it's worse than at other times. It has cast me on God more. I would say that. And there are times where I'm astounded by how calm I am and how ready to go through what I'm going to have to go through. So that happens too, but definitely I have times of fear. So I had the ultrasound, and after the ultrasound, when they found the mass, they said I was going to have to need an MRI, and I'm extremely claustrophobic. I'm very, very claustrophobic, and I was very concerned about this, but they found what they call an open MRI for me down in Raleigh, which is about 60 miles away from where I live. And they also said that my family practice gave me a prescription for 2 sedatives, and they said, take one an hour before and then take one when you get there if you need the second one. So my friend Terry, who has just been so kind and so helpful, Terry understands a lot about medical procedures. She told me that she would take me. So I went down, she lives near Raleigh. So I went down to her place, and I, since getting free of fundamentalism myself back in, I don't know, around 1999, 2000, I drink, and I don't right now because my liver has been giving me trouble for several years, but, I know what it is to drink, and I know what it is to drink too much, but I don't know, like I never got high, or anything like that. I was always a pretty straight arrow where that was concerned. And so I went to Terry's house that morning, and we were talking. I had to take the pill, and we were going to have to wait about 20 minutes, and then we could leave. It was about a 40-minute drive for us. So I don't know what I thought was going to happen. I guess I thought I was just going to feel more relaxed. And so I take the pill with water, and I'm talking and talking, and suddenly my lower lip felt like it was, as big as my entire head. And I even said, Terry, what's happening to my lower lip? I think that's what I said. And she said, your lower lip is fine. And then I calmed down. Like I actually felt afraid, and you kind of feel it sweep over you. This wave of something sweeps over you. And I realized, I have read and had friends who got high, who talk about waiting for it to hit. And I thought, okay, that's what this is. It's just got to hit me. And after that rough moment, I felt great. I was very happy about everything in my life. And so we went, but then when I saw the MRI itself, and if you don't know, an MRI is a long tube, your entire body slides into it, and it uses magnetic resonance imaging. That is MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. So it's using very, very powerful magnets all around you, and magnetic waves will go right through you. So they can actually look at your insides. It takes a while to build the image, but they can. So it's a narrow tube, and if you're claustrophobic, it's very difficult to go into it. And so when I walk, this was supposed to be an open MRI, and I walk into the room, and it's just a long tube. And I told the very kind tech, Kayla, I thought this was an open MRI. And she said, this is an open MRI. It's larger. The tube is wider than the standard MRI tube. And she said, we could fit a 450-pound person in here. But that to me was not wide enough. And I really had a bad moment. I told her, I don't think I can do this, but she talked me into getting on the cot. You lie on a cot and it'll slide into the tube. Um, I know that in my previous video, I talked about when I was very frightened, calling on God and begging God to help me. And I had a roaring in my ears. I woke up with a roaring in my ears, and the roaring slowly subsided. And then because I had been up for several nights without a lot of sleep, I asked God, please to help me sleep. And this spreading sensation instantly, the answer to that prayer was instant. It just instantly spread across my back, down my legs, and I fell right to sleep. And I believe that that was God answering my prayer, God with me, helping me. So when I was, I knew I needed this MRI. You can't have any type of procedure on your liver without them knowing where the stuff is. They're not going to open you up and poke around inside you like it's 1940. So I knew, I needed this. And I told her, please don't be offended, but I'm going to pray. And she said, no, she wasn't offended. And I asked the Lord to give me a sense of his presence so that I would be courageous enough to go in there. And that same spreading sensation started in my right foot and it went up my right leg, most of the way up my right leg. And I just thought, I'm lying there, and I just thought, well, it's like the Lord is there. He's got a hold of my foot. And I thought, okay, I can go in this machine if I know the Lord's there with me. So I said, okay, I think I can do it. And they folded up a pillowcase and put it over my eyes like a blindfold. And that helped. That actually helped. So then when you go in, they give you earplugs. You have an earplug, and then they put these big noise canceling headphones over you, and they talk to you through the headphones. So I went in, and when your liver is being MRI'd, you have to do breathing a certain way. And that actually occupied my mind while I was in there. I couldn't really see where I was. I could see brightness around the edges of the blindfold, and I could hear them. And I was getting these instructions on holding my breath, and you hold your breath for a very, very long time. And as it turned out, I didn't do a very good job of that, but I was so stoned on whatever that sedative was. I didn't, like, a couple times I thought maybe I was exhaling through my nose before she said to exhale. I couldn't tell. I honestly could not tell, but it turns out that, yeah, I did. I messed up the breathing somewhat. So we finished the MRI, and they told me, that was Thursday, and they told me I would get the results on Friday, but if not Friday, because it was a 3-day Labor Day weekend, it would be Tuesday. But actually, Saturday night, I was watching UFC fights. I had just finished watching UFC fights, and got an email saying I had a message in my MyChart account, the private account that's attached to my medical services. And I knew what it was. So I texted my friend Terry, and I told her, I've got it, but I just can't look at it. I was so scared. I just told her I can't look at it. So she offered to look at it for me. And again, Terry always ends up explaining whatever it is that I get in a medical test report. So I sent it on to her, and I sent it on to her, and I said, could we talk about it tomorrow? And she said yes. And so I went to sleep. And I'm pleased that I just went to sleep. I knew we were going to talk about this the next day, but I was able to just put it out of my mind, put the dogs to bed, said my prayers, and was able really to just go to sleep. It was the first thing on my mind when I woke up this morning. But I went and I did my 2-mile walk down at the Arboretum, which is a very pretty walk, and then came back, and turned out that my email didn't send properly, so I had to send it to Terry again. And then she saw it, and she went over it with me, and the results are okay. They're as good as I could get. The report named 2 or 3 very specific cancers that I guess the machine can pick up, and said I did not have that as far as the machine could see, I didn't have any of those. And the machine, or the report said my pancreas is clear, which I'm very grateful for, that the pancreas is clear, no cancer that it detected, no growths or mass that it detected, no swelling or anything like that. And then the same for the spleen, that the spleen is also clear. The rest of my digestive tract, I don't think the MRI could see everything, because it's kind of focused on the liver, which is your upper right side, but it did say that what it could scan of the stomach and the intestines were also clear. And it said my bile duct, the liver bile duct was clear, which I knew from the ultrasound. So it said there is a large mass. It doesn't look like it's grown since the ultrasound. So it's 6 centimeters by 6.1 centimeters by 4.7 centimeters. It's in the right lobe of the liver. And because I had moved, and I wasn't aware of this, but because I had moved, and I think it was me not being able to hold my breath, it couldn't determine if it had clean, crisp edges, which would have been nice, if it has clean, crisp edges, that's nice to know. But it couldn't make that determination. And the recommendation, which Terry told me at the ultrasound, you'll have an MRI and then you will have to have a liver biopsy. And so, the last thing it said was it recommended a liver biopsy. So it's, I could still have cancer. I could still have some type of cancer, but this is as good as I'm going to get, except I wish I'd been able to hold more still so I would know about the edges. But next then on the list is the liver biopsy, which it took 2 weeks from the ultrasound to get the MRI. So I'm guessing, and Terry said, yeah, you better count on that, at least 2 weeks to get the biopsy. And as I understand from the biopsy, it's not a surgery, but they give you fentanyl and morphine. So, I'm sure I'll be really flying then. And you still feel it. And then they'll go in with a long needle and do the biopsy. I would ask for prayer in that from Thursday when I took the sedative, I have tinnitus, which just started in April. And I think the tinnitus is connected to the mass on my liver. So I thought the tinnitus would be bad as soon as I took the sedative, but actually all day Thursday after the sedative, I did not have ringing in my ears. And usually I have it at night, but I didn't. Friday, I did not have ringing in my ears. But then Saturday, from the moment I woke up, all day long, all throughout the entire day Saturday, I had ringing in my ears. So, and I think that was from my body trying to detox the sedative and maybe the contrast dye that they gave that to me in a tube, just briefly for the MRI, like the last, I don't know, maybe the last 5 or 10 minutes of the MRI, I had the IV with the contrast dye in it. So the ringing in my ears started. So, if you pray, I would ask for you to pray for mild symptoms from the sedatives I would have, and pray, I ask you to pray for me. I'm not even halfway through this yet, this ordeal, I guess I would call it. But I have had 2 experiences really of the closeness of God to me and his readiness to help, and so I read this book a long time ago, and I just got it now. I ordered a new copy. I guess I lent my old copy to somebody, The Practice of the Presence of God. And this was written by a monk, Brother Lawrence of the Resurrection, in the 1400s. Brother Lawrence was a peasant. And when he was young, there was no way he could make a living except by joining the army. So he did, and he fought in the 30 Years' War. And he in some battle, a great weight fell on him. I don't remember if it was a boulder or a piece of building or what, but something fell on his lower back and injured his sciatic nerve for the rest of his life. He limped and often had great pain from it. After he left the army, he was what he called a footman, which I think we would call a valet, to a wealthy man. And he's, self-admittedly, he was horrible at the job. He said he just broke every stuff in the house all the time. He was always breaking things because he was so clumsy. So he stuck it out for 5 years. He must have had a very patient master. And then he joined a monastery. And soon in the monastery, well, he was assigned to be the cook in the kitchen. And he says, again, he wasn't good at it. He was not skilled. He really didn't have, apparently, a lot of native skillfulness. But he, over time, as he applied himself to the discipline, and he did definitely apply himself over to the discipline, he became more proficient at it and handled things for the monastery, even the buying and selling of wine for the entire monastery. And this is, I think, a very big monastery, so like working for a large corporation, he was handling some fairly high level stuff in terms of the food and drink. But everything he did in terms of God's presence with him. It really is remarkable what most people know, if they know anything about Brother Lawrence, is that when he was a young man, before he joined this order, he was walking in the woods and he saw a tree. This was in the autumn. He saw a tree that was lost all its leaves. It had lost all its leaves. It was stripped bare. And he suddenly knew, surely God by his providence would clothe the tree again, fully leafing it out and giving it back its life. And this came to him like this big revelation, and it changed him. And he immediately worshiped God for God's constant providential care of his creation. And this began this lifelong journey for him into practicing the presence of God. And you can read this book in 45 minutes. It's really a series of paragraphs of him making observations about how he did what he did. But even in his lifetime, he was just a brother. In fact, he never had full ordination. He was a brother all his life, a man definitely of limited means and abilities in life. But the other monks, including the abbot, noticed about him a serenity and a kindness that was rare even in the monastery. He just was an incredibly kind person and had this incredible peace about himself. And so the book is actually, the first part is a synopsis of his life, which is basically what I just told you. And then it's letters back and forth from one person to Brother Lawrence, or it's actually Brother Lawrence writing back to this person and explaining how he practices the presence of God. And some of it is just amazing and has been so helpful, and it's actually extremely practical. Brother Lawrence didn't go for high-flown prayers or wordiness. His advice is be direct with God. And his confidence in God is incredible. His confidence in God's willingness to forgive him. But some of what he says, he's a monk who shut himself off from the world. And I don't really, that was in his times. That was what people did. But when God himself became a man, he didn't shut himself away. He came and interacted with us. And that, I think, is a vital part of the Christian life. In many ways, we practice the presence of God without the benefit of solitude. We have to learn to practice the presence of God when we're dealing with people on a big scale. So that's kind of one caveat. But again, so much of what he says is just incredible. And then some of what he says, there's a couple paragraphs in what he says. It's rare, it's maybe 2 paragraphs. I really don't know what he's saying. And so I'll read them. I keep reading them out of the sense that maybe I'll finally figure out what he's saying. So far, that hasn't happened. But overall, it's very direct. And it's just astonishing, really, how practicing the presence of God is not, well, it's not difficult to understand. It is something in which we have to persevere. And I have been working on that. So thank you. I hope you will continue to pray for me. I appreciate everybody's prayers, and I certainly appreciate the messages of support and kindness. That really means a lot to me. I live by myself, fairly isolated life, and so I really do appreciate the messages. Just in terms of the work that I had done, it just seems so fitting now when I'm ill and facing surgery. One of the great culprits who I documented, Charles Shiflett, he is once again pastoring. This is a man who sexually abused both boys and girls in his Christian school, beat children, actually tortured pigs to death in front of children and sprayed the children with the blood of the pigs. I mean, yes, that man did this. Just a horrible, horrible man who did plead guilty, but the legal system in his area was so sympathetic to him. They got it down to 1 felony, which I think was assault. The felony itself does not have to do with child sexual abuse, but there were misdemeanors like taking indecent liberties with a child. That's on his record. And then 4 years after he did all this, he was found guilty for defrauding workman's comp and insurance companies and embezzling from the church when he was employed by the church, forging checks. He did go to prison for 4 years for that, and still an independent Baptist church, its First Bible Baptist Church of Ruckersville, Virginia, still they take him on as a pastor. So I've been working with news media, trying to get somebody to carry the story and just say to the public of Ruckersville, this is who this man is, this is what he's done. And so I'd ask you to pray about that, that once again, Chuck Shiflett has reared his awful head and is once again trying to take over a church. And if that happens, once again, he's going to damage and destroy a lot of lives. There's absolutely no indication whatsoever that he's ever repented of what he's done. So thank you for your prayers and for your support, and thanks for listening. And Lord willing, I'll keep in touch as things develop.